When we think of the Marine Corps, and of course, Navy corpsmen are with the Marine Corps in Vietnam in 1967, then of course we're going to think about Thien.
No.
Now, your duty again is primarily on the USS Repose, but I think
Yeah.
you are up in Thien for a little while. When I just even say those words, Thien, 1967, what comes to your mind?
The Walking Dead. Um, Dong Ha is at the DMZ almost. So just miles away, I don't even know how many really. The hills of lower hill, second hill, upper hill. And it was one of those uh, Agent Orange, defoliated areas, all of them. That's that poison that was down and killed all the vegetation. So literally, you had a bald spot on these hills, and then in there were rabbit warrens that were made up uh, trenches, if you will, and hooches were established with marine machine green sandbags all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, there was barbed wire. There was a tower on, I think, all three hills, and from there the Marines would launch uh, search and destroy missions of North Vietnamese NVAs coming down through there. Actually, there wasn't a lot of movement, but there was. They did it to harass us. There were better ways of them to get down into the South Vietnamese area than right there at Con Thien. So Con Thien was one of those bases in my mind that was just where two bullies set up and stood their ground and would beat the shit out of each other every once in a while. Really, really horrible place. Um, I only went once, and this all sounds like a cheap dime store novel. Uh, Somebody's stupid dream of glory and heroism. But I was leaving Vietnam. I had done my 13 months, and the last few days I was sent to Dong Ha to await then transport down to Da Nang, and then ultimately a trip home. But when I got there, there had been a lot of rain, and they hadn't been able to get up to Can Tien from Dong Ha to get the wounded. It had been several days. I mean, several days in picking up wounded is like 3, 4, 5 days. That's several days. So the rain let up just as I was getting there, um, third or fourth day, and my friends Matt and Ski and Bobo were, well. Actually, Bobo was already up at Con Thien. He'd gone there before all the rain. So Matt and Ski and I were asked if we would be willing to go on a three chopper dust off up to Con Thien, uh, one each of us into that with other corpsmen into those choppers and to go up and get the wounded because there were really a lot of wounded. Matt and Ski and I were gay boys that had bonded together in the war. All of you straight people have your band of brothers that make you survive that kind of insanity. You bolster each other with a common experience of wives and children and education and all of that. gay people didn't have that bond of brothers. And I was there and I created my own band of brothers. And Matt and Ski were part of that. So we went up to Thien, and it does stuff. It's just in and out. And so the normal thing is that the three choppers, one would hang back in the air, two would land. And we landed in the lower hill because that had the most cover from the rockets that were coming in because it was getting pounded bad. And so we landed and we started getting the wounded on. Bobo was there and he was ready. And he and Matt, because they were in country FMF corpsmen, field medics, they were organizing the loading of the choppers. So I was getting my group that I was assigned on board my chopper. I don't remember the number. How many could you get on a Huey? I don't even remember. 6. And then the walking. And then Matt's chopper, he was standing outside of it taking a last sweep because we were getting ready to lift off. And I looked over and saw him standing there doing that sweep that we always do. When you get on a chopper, you want to make sure you got everything. And a rocket hit the chopper. And it blew up and started on fire. The detail that I'm just now remembering, he grabbed one of the wounded and got him off the ship, we call choppers ships, got him off the chopper. And then he went back, obviously, to keep doing that. And that's when the chopper blew up. He was thrown very far. He flew far. And I ran towards him because I know when I see a man who is dying. You learn that. You learn that in war. You knew, I knew, he was dying. And so I looked over him, knelt by him. Everybody loved Matt. And so Bobo and a group of Marines came towards us and gathered around us. And I just looked at Matt, and he was still alive. And he said, I wish, I wish, I wish. It was a conversation that we'd had in Hong Kong New Year's 1966 and 67. He was the man that I kissed and got caught. And we had talked about possibly having a relationship. We didn't know that gay men could be together in a loving relationship. We weren't taught that that was a possibility. And we had talked about how we wished that we could be a couple. So I knew what he was saying. And I said, I know Matt. I know Matt. And then he died. And I go, I love you, Matt. I love you. And I know that no one around us cared that two men could love each other at that point because we'd all been through it. Bobo started yelling at me to get back to my ship. It's get back to your chopper. You got to get back. They was still incoming because you got to get your men out of here. Talking about the wounded, I loaded up. And he came close to my face and he whispered, you know how this works. The friendship's over. Now go. Go. And I went. I knew that Bobo would take care of Matt's body and make sure all of that was good. And I went. And 2 days later, I was on a plane back to the United States with all of that in my mind. A dime, cheap ass dime novel ending to my time in Vietnam.